Kim na vote.
Court is in session with Ryan in Sacktown on If You Don't Like That. Now, Ryan in Sacktown.
Oh, must be Ryno.
What's up? What's up? Happy Monday! It's the live edition of the King's Court. It's the last live edition of the King's Court before tomorrow's NBA draft. How was your weekend? For the fathers out there, hope you had a wonderful Father's Day. I'll share with you some of the things that I learned this weekend. That's going to be a new segment on the show. Sorry, Adam Rank. I'm taking that directly from you. Just letting you know, straight up, Rank. I am taking that segment from you. It is a good one if it is done right. So, what's going on? What do you want to talk about? Today is the day to get involved. Like I said, it's your last chance here on the King's Court Live to get your draft day predictions in, your questions, etc. You want to make a bold prediction? We're here for it. So we hear today from three draft picks who the three that have been largely talked about with the Sacramento Kings. We have their pre-draft media availability. Credit to Jake Gordon, CBS Sacramento, their sports director from his X page. He's currently in New York City, so we're going to play those. That is his material, so I think Jake, in advance for that, we'll give him proper credits. But we'll hear from Darius Acuff, we'll hear from Kingston Flemings, and also Keaton Wagler. So we'll get into those three. We'll hear from Scott Perry. Also, there was an NBA panel that included Bobby Marks. That they're doing a bunch of draft stuff. Like right now, they have an on the clock special going on NBA's YouTube page where they're just doing like 5 minutes with every draft pick. A lot of stuff going on. The panel was asked, who is the best point guard in the draft? We're going to listen to that as well. And I've got to ask, because it's something that I have been saying for a while around here. Is this the last day? Is tomorrow the last day that Domantas Sabonis will be a Sacramento King? Are we going to miss those Domas roars as he goes to the rim? That's Domas going to the rim, by the way. Those mics are really good, man. They pick up Domas really well. They, for better or worse, pick up Malik Monk very well. But is activity stirring with Domas and the Kings? We'll get there. We'll also hear from James Ham as well, a guy that I very much respect here in the Sacramento media, one of the guys that's at the top of the food chain. He shares his reporting on the Domas situation, and it's not all that different than what we've been talking about. I've been saying now since the end of the season, I think Domas has played his last game in Sacramento. Nothing that Domas did. If you want to say it's unfair to Domas, you can be part of that party. If you want to say that it's fair to Domas, you can be part of that party as well. I just know the financials do not work, and something that I have been a big proponent of when everybody was reporting the Kings possibly moving up to get Darius Acuff Jr., I'm like, no, that's the wrong move. You need to try to get back into the first round and get a second first round pick in this draft. Are they looking at that? We'll see. So all that ahead, the World Cup going on. I'll tell you, that's something that I've learned. I did not expect to enjoy the World Cup as much as I have enjoyed it so far. This last few weeks, past couple weeks. Does Team USA being 2-0 and already moved on to the elimination phase have something to do with it? Kind of, but it's been really cool more than that to see the different atmospheres throughout the country, to read the stories about people coming here outside of Team Iran who, for obvious reasons, may not have had the best hospitality in the US and Mexico because of stuff going on in the world. But reading the stories of fans coming into the nation, experiencing our culture. Look, the Scotland fans drinking Boston Dry. Are you kidding me? I mean, they didn't drink them dry per se, but they could not keep up with the demand of the Scottish fans. And then also the parody of the World Cup. It really is almost any given day. You just don't know what's going to happen. You've seen some upsets like Ivory Coast, right? They win their first game and then they go up 1-0. Who are they playing? The Germans. Germany ended up scoring in the second half, and then they scored during the added minutes to beat the Ivory Coast. But it's a little stuff like that. So one thing that I've learned is it's really fun to watch the World Cup when the World Cup's here in America. What have you learned? We'll talk about it. Let's get to your comments. And then you know what it is. It's a motivational Monday. We can't forget about that. And Grant and I, we are back tonight. We will be here at 7 o'clock. Join us. It will be, we'll figure out what we're going to do for the draft tomorrow. That's still a little bit of a fluid situation because I'm planning to be at the Golden One Center for the media watch party and then the Scott Perry media availability after the first round. Grant and I were originally going to do a draft night show. I don't know if maybe I can squeeze that in from the G1C. So we're going to figure that out. But tonight, nonetheless, we will be back together at 7 p.m. So make sure you join us. We'll give our final predictions, I guess, for the NBA draft. So what are all you up to? Let's get to your comments and then we will get to our motivational Monday. Go Spurs, go. Okay, there you go, Lynn. New era is youth in size. Okay, we're talking about new eras. I actually have a quote from Scott Perry. I asked him a question about that. We'll play it in a second. Who's gone? Sabonis, Zach, Monk, Keegan, and DeMar? No. Sabonis is here, or excuse me, Sabonis is gone. Zach is here. Monk is here. Keegan and DeMar, I think, are here. I think Sabonis is the only one on that list that is not here. Let's see. Andy and Co. What's up, Andy? I've been telling my brother we just need to actually develop our young guys. No matter what we draft, I'm talking at least 25 minutes a game. I think that is the bridge of patience that the fan base has extended to Doug Christie and him retaining his job. It's certainly one of the bigger reasons that Scott Perry mentioned that the Kings retained Doug Christie for next season. If the Kings do not continue playing the young guys heavy minutes, then I think that olive branch begins to shrink quickly. And that's where you might run into some issues. The Kings have had no problems typically developing players. They've been one of the best teams in the NBA at developing young talent over the last 3 years. They've had 3 players that were undrafted that have gone to full deals, a full-time roster spot. That's really good. You know, the problem is not actually developing them, it's retaining them. So what was our 3-word motto for this summer that we came up with? It's scout, develop, retain. Like those should be the 3 pillars of the Kings: scout, develop, retain, because retaining has been the bigger issue. Improper tanking equals stanking. Interesting. Kings select a starter. We'll see. Scott Perry said at exit interviews that he was hoping that they will get a starter out of this draft, as much or many teams are hoping. ESPN, Ryan S. Clark, Golden Knights owner Bill Foley launching NBA Las Vegas bid. Plus, he already has the arena for the team. Well, yeah, any team that goes there is going to probably play at T-Mobile. And I'm guessing he's the owner of T-Mobile. Makes a lot of sense. Peter, I'm glad you're here so you don't get fined. Good stuff, man. Appreciate that. Punctuality, important, right? 5 minutes early, 10 minutes late. Get it, dude. So anyways, we've got a lot of show ahead. Let me know where you think the Kings are going. My guy Tay, what's up, dude? Looks like league sources strongly indicate that Acuff will be available at the 7th pick. I did not think he would be available. Now I'm kind of, maybe I'm moving a little bit on that point. I'll sit here and confidently tell you if Darius Acuff is on the board when the Kings time starts, it's done. Like, okay, the Sacramento Kings are now on the clock. The Kings pick is in. It's Darius Acuff Jr. from the University of Arkansas. That's how quick it would be if he's on the board. So it should be interesting. Let's see. Joe. What's up, Joe? Hey, Ryno, enjoy the show, man. Think the Kings find their point guard of the future in this draft. Yeah, wouldn't it be funny if they go away from that? Scott said they're gonna draft best available, but yeah, it does look like that the intersection of best available and position of need are going to match up perfectly in this one. So, speaking of Scott Perry, it is Monday. You know what that means, right? It is time for our Motivational Monday, courtesy of Scott Perry. We're not goofing on Scott. I like these. I think all of you like these too. Scott Perry this morning. How we begin each day and the thoughts that we bring in to when we wake up sets the tone for our day. Choose to begin each day being thankful for the opportunity to do great things. Expect the unexpected and look to areas where you may be of service. The day will unfold just as it is supposed to, and things will manifest at just the right time. Be focused on the now and win the day. Hashtag Monday Motivation from our guy Scott Perry. Love it. I'm a big fan of those. I think some of you are too. I mentioned Jake Gordon, CBS 13's sports director. He is in New York City. Here is his report, his draft notes from New York. We're going to have some video courtesy of him as well in a few minutes. Sacramento is expected to select Darius Acuff Jr. at number 7 if he's available. Okay. Not a big surprise there. The Kings are looking at ways to re-enter the late first round. Multiple avenues to do so. All right. That I have been a big proponent of that. I thought that would be the right way to go. Happy to hear it. According to Jake, there's absolutely nothing on Domantas Sabonis' Toronto deal. The Raptors have completely backed off their interest. Less than 24 hours until draft night. Very, very interesting that he says that. James Ham, a guy that I very, very much respect. Locked On Kings, took that over from Matt George. Love James. Awesome guy, great professional, knows basketball, immaculate sources. Make sure you go check him out. Here was his take not too long ago on Domantas Sabonis in Toronto.
As of right now, it has quieted down. And according to one source, a familiar option has reemerged. So the Kings and Raptors came extremely close to a trade the week before the trade deadline in February. I know that to be 100% true. Absolutely 100% true from a source of mine and a very good source. On Saturday morning, I got a call from a completely different source. That source has the Kings and Raptors talking again. It has been difficult to get that confirmed, but from what I've heard, the Kings and Raptors have discussed a swap that would sound very similar to the one that almost happened pre-deadline, which that would be Sabonis going to the Raptors in a package that includes RJ Barrett and Grady Dick. It's very similar to what was going on at the deadline. It got extremely complicated at the deadline when Toronto wanted someone to take on Jakob Poeltl's contract, and then all of a sudden didn't want to give the Kings any draft capital because it was going to cost them to move off of their center that they owe way too much money to for a 31-year-old guy with a bad back. So it got a little murky. I do not know what an entire package would look like here between these two teams, just that it's based loosely off of those three players from what I've heard. Now, again, this could just disappear and dissipate into thin air, just like, the Hornets conversation, just like the Raptors at the deadline did. So again, as of right now, I don't know if there would be additional pieces. I don't know if those would include draft stock, whatever, which the Kings have been asking for. The Kings have been asking teams for to get back into the first round. If you're going to trade the best player in a deal, then you a lot of times are rewarded with draft stock, right?
Here's the thing, and here's the important thing. Again, that's courtesy of James Ham, Locked On Kings. Go check him out at. Does this handle have NBA in it? I think it does. It's like at James Ham NBA, I want to say. Go check him out. But draft capital, that's the important thing. You don't look so much at the players, you look at the draft capital when you're rebuilding. Yes, you are going to take salary back on, but you also look at when that salary is going to be expiring. And it's also true that not all draft capital is the same. Whereas a first round pick from the Toronto Raptors, a first round pick from the San Antonio Spurs is not going to be as good as a first round pick from the Washington Wizards per se. So looking at Toronto, looking at Domas, I think it makes a lot of sense for both teams. Jerry and I talked about this last Wednesday. Because of DeMontis's skill set, there's going to be teams that value it and want to play with it and embrace it. And then there's going to be other teams that are just going to see him as a rebounder, somebody down low, a scrapper, and they're going to look at that big number and think it's not worth it. Trae Young in his deal, which, by the way, the NBA is technically, because it's not free agency, but the NBA is open for business. Stuff is moving right now. Conversations are happening. Trae Young opted out to end up extending with the Wizards, but I use Trae Young as an example because there was no draft capital on Trae Young's deal. So think about that. No capital on his deal. Think about Desmond Bane last season to Orlando. 4 first-round picks they gave up. So what's that look like? If you can get a couple of first-round picks, if you could get a future first-round pick and get back in to this draft in the first round, it's not terrible. It's not terrible at all. And the Kings need to get creative because of the limitations that they have right now. And that's the other thing too. The Kings can't sit back and wait for the rest of the NBA to come to them. The Kings need to be going to the NBA. And I say that because if you look at the financial situation, in fact, we'll put up both teams' financial situations. But if you look at the Kings, the NBA is going to pass you by in terms of transactions because you have nothing to work with right now. You're projected to be in the second apron. You can't be in the second apron come free agency. If you even think you want to dabble in free agency and free some funds up, this is when you have to do it. So it'll be interesting to see what, if any, trades we see on draft night, if they might include DeMontis. Jake Gordon saying it's quiet. James saying there were talks. We'll see. But expect there to be some movement draft night. And man, I really hope this Giannis stuff gets figured out. I am so sick and tired of hearing about Giannis. Dude is the biggest diva that I have seen in a long time in the NBA. And it's nothing new with his act. Let's see. Blast my Azteca. Okay. You an Aztec? Fellow Aztec. Love it. A ball handler. Tristan. Beautiful. All right. Beautiful, I guess. That is some new angle stuff right there. Not sure what you're talking about. Oh, man. Stuck with the Saboner contract. We a second apron team. No, you are not stuck with the quote unquote Saboner contract. I did not say that. Tristan said Saboner. That was not me. Did you get anything good in the box? No, I did not get anything good in my WWE Chrome box. Getting Acuff Jr. will redeem the Kings' mistake made drafting J-Rob instead of T-Rob instead of Damian Lillard back in 2012. Much love to T-Rob, though he embraced Sacramento as well, or so well, but could never live up to his talent. I go back to my Jerry Reynolds isms. Is that the right way to say it? If you do not have a starting position, or if you don't have a position in the NBA that you are clear cut made for, then you can't be a starter. And that was Thomas Robinson. He's too small to be a 4. 3 just was not athletic enough. Yeah. Look, the Acuff, and we're going to hear from Acuff here in a few minutes. We've said we think Acuff probably has the higher ceiling out of the point guards available. However, the defense worries you. Usage percentage, depending on how you look at that as a positive or a negative, I think you need to dissect it a little more, because usage is what you contribute to your team scoring a point. So that could be a shot just as well as an assist. Acuff has the higher ceiling. The question is he the right fit for what the Kings need? I've hammered you over the head with it. I've hammered you over the head this summer with this quote, and I'm going to do it again, because to me, this was one of the best things Doug Christie has said since being head coach of the Kings. This is what Doug Christie is looking for in a point guard.
Right off the bat, point guard, this is in this league, if you don't have that position, you really don't have a chance. It's the quarterback. It's, they say quarterback in football and different things, and that's a tough position. But this one is about as difficult as it gets. You're running a team, you're running a show, you're responsible for the guys on the court. You're quarterbacking the defense, you're quarterbacking the offense. This guy needs a shot, that guy needs a shot. When do I need to do my thing? What does the coach want? Am I representing him the right way out here? I'm the head of the snake. There's a lot that goes into that.
That was Doug Christie during exit interviews. What's up, J Cal? How you doing? Good to see you back in here. Glad you're here. We will not be here live tomorrow. However, I will do a audio only draft preview that will be on Spotify, Apple, wherever you find your podcasts, because I'm going to be down at the Golden One Center tomorrow when we would normally be doing the show. Somebody asked why there's so much noise around Acuff. Look, he's dynamic. He appears to be dynamic. He's the fastest guy in the draft. Yes, I think we're making too much. Well, you know what? Normally, I would say we're making too much of the ties to Scott Perry coaching Acuff's dad in college. But if I look at Scott Perry and I examine ties, quote unquote, to the past, to other organizations, to other people that he's worked with in the past, and where we are now, and how important that seems to be to his formula, those ties might matter more than we actually think. Like if it was Monty McNair and Monty McNair coached Darius Acuff's dad, I wouldn't think too much of it. But because it's Scott Perry and you can see a lot, he talks about Detroit, talks about New York. You look at some of the guys that are on the coaching staff, you look at some of the people that are still in the front office, those ties are everywhere from those two places. Ties mean something to him. Relationships certainly mean something to him. So in this case, I do think you have to put a little bit more into that. That's why it's so loud about Acuff. I just wonder what's changed. Two questions. What has changed, number one, about Acuff maybe going down in the draft? And if Acuff and Wagler are off the board when number 8 comes up to pick, what's that mean for Kingston Flemings? Is he going to be that guy that falls? I don't think he'll be that guy that falls, but Atlanta's picking 8, and they just re-signed TJ McCollum for another year. It's an interesting question, all of which we will get into. Your skill set was never helping a playoff roster. Never. Whose skill set? You talking about Haunted Horse's skill set? Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah. Second apron for this team. It's brutal. So granted, this number 4 is a 7 because this was done before the draft lottery. But that's what they're looking at right now. And the Kings have not been in the luxury tax since 2020, or no, excuse me, 2004, 2005. They're not going there. James Dolan already said with the Knicks, we're not going into the second apron. So it means a major move needs to happen, or you're going to have a lot of small moves. We'll see. Heat for Giannis is a better fit. I'm so tired of Giannis. I just am. Summer, it's funny, Tay, that you ask that, because that was one of those things that I learned yesterday. It just hit me. We were in the pool and hanging out, and I'm like, dude, like we're pretty much like right smack into summer. Like I know that because every day that we do a show, I'm putting the date on it. But for some reason, it hit me yesterday. Like we're habituated now to the heat. And we're at the part of the summer where before we know it, 4th of July will be here. And then boom, we'll be back into football. It'll be here that quick. The Hall of Fame game will be right around the corner. Like summer, at least for me, always flies by after the 21st. Another thing I learned this weekend, the US Open, has there been a US Open that has been less of a big deal? Like nobody seemed to care about the US Open this weekend. The World Cup killed the US Open. I didn't care about the US Open, and I'm usually locked in. Scheffler was near the leaderboard. Some of the names, I just could not do it. Did not want it. I found myself watching NASCAR from Coronado Island because of my San Diego ties. That was pretty cool, by the way. Boring course, but cool setup. that they were playing in Coronado. So, all right, let's get to some of the videos and audio that I wanted to reference for today. So, when we hear from Darius Acuff, Kingston Flemings, and Keaton Wagler, we have video of all of those. So you don't have to just sit here and look at me or look at graphics. But first, during exit interviews, I asked Scott Perry about what the Kings are going to prioritize in this draft and how. See, here was my thought with the Kings. Last year, they had a clear strategy, and the clear strategy was this: we need dudes that can step on the court right now. They might not be ready, like, to make all rookie teams, although Max Ryno did, but we need guys that are built and have the bodies, have a better body of work, I should say, played 4 or more years in college, that might be able to start being players that work into role positions on this team, or maybe be stars on this team. Summertime, we thought Nick Clifford was, as we got further into the season. But the commonality was the Kings drafted 2 players, and they weren't in the first round. Credit to Scott Perry for getting into the first round last year. But they drafted 2 guys that played 4 years or more in college, and that more or less were ready to at least play some minutes, and play minutes at a low number with their contracts. So how do the Kings look at those players versus the one and dones? Because they're 2 completely different situations. Is there a preference? Here's what Scott Perry had to say at exit interviews on that
What
question.
you have seen in the NBA probably at least over the past decade is that at the top end of the draft has been more of the younger talent, less experienced, but analysts believe and the evaluators believe have the highest upside. As you get into the areas where we drafted Neek and Maxime, there's very highly productive players in college that have more experience and have more maturity, not just in the game, but just, in life. And I think that's why you do see a lot of those guys when they come in the league. It's like years ago when guys were coming into the NBA with 3 or 4 years in college, they're a little more prepared, both mentally and physically. So we take each case individually. We value both. We value the young and high upside, and that's the importance of development. But we also value, as you could see, this draft class, guys were all 4 or 5 year guys, and I think they more than represented what we want to stand for this year. And then, our challenge to them and what I know they want to do is build on that.
So my question to all of you, and my big question going into tomorrow night, is what will be the commonality, or will there be a commonality between who the Kings pick in the first round and the second round? Maybe twice in the first round, if they're able to get back in. Will we see that? Because we're starting to get a mold and an idea of what a Scott Perry player looks like. Longer, athletic, high motor, I would say. I think Scott wants guys that can play both ways. He said that, but I'm also starting to see that as well. Because remember, he inherited the roster. It's not like he chose most of this roster. And that's why the Acuff pick is really interesting to me. Now, for that NBA panel that I was talking about just a second ago, they were asked who is the best point guard in the NBA draft this year. Here is what they had to say. I have not listened to it. I'm looking forward to hearing the answer.
Fran Fraschilla, fill in the blank. The best point guard in the 2026 NBA draft class is?
Before I answer that, I got to say, when I go to Baskin Robbins, some nights I like Baseball Nut, some nights I like Rocky Road, some nights I like chocolate chip cookie dough. And with the specifically with the top 4 point guards, I love them all. They're all different. They all fit different situations. I think the best of them at this moment is probably Darius Acuff Jr. based on what he accomplished this year for Coach Cal in Arkansas. I'm a little partial to Kingston Flemings because I've gotten to know him, and when you say no maintenance, there's no maintenance with that young man. And I also think Kingston may have the highest ceiling. And quickly, when you go play for Kelvin Sampson, keep in mind he's the first 5-star to play at Houston under Kelvin Sampson. When you do that, you're basically joining the basketball equivalent of Navy SEALs. That kid chose to be coached hard, and it paid off for him. I love Mikael Brown's talent, and Keaton Wagler is, as many people have compared him to, he's kind of a younger Tyrese Halliburton. So if you put me on a spot, John, I'd probably say that Darius Acuff Jr. is the most ready to make an impact.
You're welcome.
How about that? That's so interesting. It is very similar to how we've evaluated it around here. Wow. The Navy SEAL. That's so highest ceiling. Kingston Fleming. So that's actually opposite. I thought Acuff had a higher ceiling than Fleming's. Very interesting. Speaking of the players, they've had availability today. Jake Gordon, CBS 13's sports director, is in New York City. He was at a couple of their press conferences. Let's start off with the aforementioned Darius Acuff.
It means a lot. It's definitely a great day for me and the family for sure. So just excited for sure.
What would it be like to play for the Brooklyn Nets?
Any team I go to, I'm looking forward to. I wouldn't say just one team, so I'm looking forward to any team I go to.
Could you handle New York, and if so, in what way?
Like I said, any team I go to is good for me. Any city I go to, I can handle for sure.
What about your scoring at all different levels? Do you feel that's one of your strengths, your ability to score almost anywhere in the court?
Yeah, scoring, also assisting, getting my teammates involved. I think is one of my strengths for sure.
Darius, you were the best guard in college basketball last year, and arguably the best player in the country. What makes you, if you think you are the top player in this draft, and what do you bring into any team in the NBA?
I just want to bring in a winning player, a guy that does anything for my team to win. Whatever role I got to play, I'm looking forward to for sure.
You've got some teammates here in Malik Thomas, Trevor Brazile, in terms of available for this draft. What was it like playing with those guys, and how do you envision them as pros and playing in the same class as you?
Yeah, it was great. Looking forward to, hopefully seeing those guys, tomorrow, and that moving forward for sure. I'm excited for those two. But it was a great year, not just those two, but for everybody on the team for sure.
And then Coach Calipari and his pedigree, getting players to the NBA, especially guards, all the success. What was that like, getting you ready for this moment and what's about to happen for you?
Yeah, it's great. Coach Cal, he prepares you for everything, every moment, every practice is hard, every game is hard. So he coaches you hard to make sure you're ready for the next level.
Would you describe this as fulfilling a dream, getting to the NBA?
Yeah, for sure. It's something you dream of, so definitely a next step towards success for sure.
You were in Sacramento last week or 2 weeks ago. How was that workout, and how was that meeting with Scott Perry?
It was a great workout. Just meeting with them. It's a great staff, great team for sure.
And then, does that connection with your dad and Perry mean anything, do you think, heading into draft night?
No, like I said, I'm looking forward to any team I go to. I'm not just focused on one team for sure. So any team I'm good with.
Darius, how would you describe just like those workouts in general, getting to meet one-on-one with the general managers of different teams? How would you describe that experience overall, meeting with multiple teams?
Yeah, it's great. It's great just learning from them. They've been around the game for so long, so just being around those guys all day is definitely great.
Darius, if you could cue up one song when you get drafted, what would that be?
One song? I can't give you one. I give you an artist, Babyface Ray and 42 Dugg, something by them, I would say probably.
Yeah. Darius, speaking of music, there was great country music from Roy Acuff Jr. Acuff's not a common last name. I was curious if you ever heard of him, Roy Acuff.
Nah, probably my grandma. I asked my grandma.
Please.
Yeah. Yeah.
For tomorrow.
For sure.
All right. That I don't need to know about country music, although I do like country music. Interesting. Playing it close to the vest, as he should. I see both sides of this argument, and I do think we're down to 2 players, although NBA.com has the Kings going for Mikael Brown Jr. With Darius Acuff, he would have an opportunity here in Sacramento if what Fraschilla, who knows basketball as well as anybody else, if he thinks he is the most ready to make an impact, I see the positives. I see the reasoning. I see the thought process behind taking that player despite some worries that you might have on the defensive end, because Sacramento is in a spot right now where players likely are going to have an accelerated learning curve. They're going to have plenty of runway to make mistakes in real time and hopefully not make them twice in a row. They're going to get opportunities that you would not get if you were walking into San Antonio, if you're walking into Orlando, if you're walking into Oklahoma City. If Acuff has the ability to have the biggest impact out of the point guards per Fran Fraschilla, then this would be an opportunity. If you believe he could be that guy here in Sacramento, to begin building around that guy. You could also make the argument that because of the new draft lottery rules, this could be theoretically the highest pick you might have for the next couple years if you end up in the quote unquote relegation zone. I asked Doug Christie this. In fact, let's play it really quick. At exit interviews, I think the question's attached. Here's Doug Christie. I was able to ask him a question at exit interviews.
Hey, Coach. Just like the rookies got an extended opportunity this season, it feels like you faced much more than a coach usually does in their first year in that seat. I'm wondering if any confidence you take, or what do you take from that and apply to the next season?
Good question. As an athlete, you grow up and to like on the outside looking in, this is like, whoa. And this is a lot, but you kind of made for it or you're not. You keep fighting, you come with the right mentality, or that starts to break down and you see that. Me in this position, I try to come with the right disposition, the right mindset, clean it, rinse it, let's go again. The learning inside of that is probably the biggest gift, and that's sit back and look. And luckily, I have two incredible mentors and leaders that help me because they see the game differently in Scott and BJ than a lot of people. So it's easy for me to lean on them. Sometimes they probably be like, damn, man. But I lean on them because I know that when you talk about knowledge and battles and fighting and where they come from, like that for me is an invaluable piece of growth that I just dive into. So, this job is one of the biggest hurdles that I've ever faced, but I truly enjoy it, and I think I must enjoy pain a little bit because it's a lot of fun, man. I really have fun doing my job, and I know that what's on the other side of what we experienced is the gratification in going through what we go through. Yeah.
So I guess what I'm saying is Darius Acuff could be in a very similar position to Doug Christie if you think he may be a guy that can be an all-star. and a guy you can build around. It might be one of the better opportunities, if not the best opportunity in the NBA for a player like Acuff, if he believes he can be that guy, and the Kings also believe he can be that guy. Because there's no shortage of playing time, and that would be the guy that you are playing through. And you're going to know, and that's where also, if you miss and he's not, and you see somebody else turn out like a Kingston Flemings, who it's so crazy that Fraschilla thinks that he has the highest ceiling. And I get that because of the basketball IQ. If I put the basketball IQ with all three of the guys, Wagler and Flemings and Acuff, I'm going, no disrespect to Darius Acuff, I am going Flemings, Wagler, and then Acuff. That doesn't mean that Acuff has no basketball IQ. That doesn't mean his basketball IQ is low. But of the three, I think he is the lowest. Now, with Kingston Flemings, that brings up the other side of the argument, where this could be one of those guys, like that franchise point guard. And understand, when I say franchise point guard, that doesn't mean multiple All-Star games. That does not mean that he's a guy that's going to be in the top 50 in the NBA rankings for players. But he could be a guy that makes your young group so much better because of his basketball IQ, his ability to play both sides of the court, and really being kind of that floor general that Doug talked about. The kid has that mindset. He shows it on his film. You see it in the way he plays. What Fran Fraschilla said about going to Houston, absolutely correct. To be a first-year player, to start and excel for Kelvin Sampson, that says something about you. The longevity for Flemings, to me, it seems like it's there more than with an Acuff. And as for a Wagler, he's going to be a good player. I'm not going to hop on board and say that he's Halliburton-like yet. They're making the comparisons because of the mechanics of his game. He's not as fast as Halliburton. He does see the floor very well. He's going to be a little bit more of a project. I think there's too many of those little things, and Jerry Reynolds did a wonderful job of pointing it out, that when we're making comps to players, we're not comping them against Tyrese's season 2 seasons ago when he made the NBA Finals. We're comping the player against that player's college film. What were they doing at that point in their career before they were drafted? But I'm not ready to really make that jump. I don't think with the Kings you can bring in a project right now. You need somebody that can step on and play, hopefully, if you stay healthy, 82 games for this team. It's just that $1 million question, because I think about players that have underachieved here in Sacramento. Going back to the year after the Beam team, the 46-win year, the list of players that have underachieved is much longer than the list that has overachieved. Which makes me ask, is it a player problem or is it a system problem? The system's been tweaked a couple of different times. And really, we haven't seen much change. If anything, we've seen the Kings ruin three-point shooters. We were talking about the Kings taking too many threes for 2.5 years. And last season, all we're talking about is the Kings not taking enough threes. And when they take them, they weren't making them. And so I'm wondering, when you look at a player like Kingston Flemings, is he possibly that key with the ball movement, with the IQ, that can unlock a Keegan Murray's offensive game, that can unlock some of those other players. We can't say with Hunter because he only played a small amount, but can get Hunter back to the way that he was shooting the 3 ball. It makes a difference when the ball moves. And yes, Acuff has very good floor vision, but he's a shoot first guard, closer to a combo, whereas Kingston Flemings is that true point guard, or at least seems to be that true point guard. And as Antonio Daniels said last week or a couple of weeks ago, it's the missing ingredient right now in the NBA.
Feel like it's lost in today's NBA. The traditional point guard, I say it all the time, Rob, it's not a skill set, it's a mindset. There's a difference between the way a lead guard thinks and a point guard thinks. There's a drastic difference in the two, because the point guard is worried about time, score, situation, and a lot of times the lead guard is worried about score.
I will never take these players for granted again.
Unlocking a Nick Clifford, per se, who didn't shoot the 3 ball well last year. The two sides of the coin with these two players is so interesting. And depending on the expectations, and I can't measure your expectations for each player, I can only measure my expectations and my judgment on what I think the Kings' expectations will be for whoever's name is on that card tomorrow night. It makes for a very, very good and, to me, stimulating conversation. So we've talked about Acuff. We've hit a little bit on Fleming. Here was Kingston Fleming's media availability earlier today, courtesy of CBS 13's sports director, Jake Gordon.
The 2 slices there, even though I wasn't even hungry, that's how you know it was good. Had 2 slices later. Slices is huge though, so I still got 2 more today. You know, I'll eat leftovers. I'm not bougie, so I'm good.
The whole pie.
I'm not even gonna answer the pie question. It doesn't make sense because when you say pie, then what do you call actual pie? You call that pie too, and then you just have 2 names for 2 different, 1 name for 2 different things. You know, New Yorkers, they just like, it's whatever.
Could you please speak a little bit on your Puerto Rican heritage? You've been getting a lot of support from the island as well recently, so I just wanted to know more about it.
Yeah, I mean, my parents, you know, my mom was born in St. Croix, around there. My grandma was also born there. So, I mean, always heritage, you know, everything like that. You know, my grandparents, especially on my mom's side, are always down there. We visited. We actually just went to Puerto Rico. I went to Puerto Rico after the season was over. So I went down there. So it's a great place, beautiful place. If anyone want to go, definitely got to tap in. So, yeah.
Last week, I think 2 weeks ago, you worked out for the Sacramento Kings.
Audio's too low. All right, let's see if we can do it the other way. We can go away from video. Let's see if the audio is better here.
The 2 slices there, even though I wasn't even hungry.
No,
you know,
it's not better.
2 slices later.
Okay.
They just like Croy around there. Definitely got to tap in. So, yeah.
Last week, I think 2 weeks ago, you worked out for the Sacramento Kings. How was that workout? How was meeting Scott and Doug, and just how that whole entire trip went?
Yeah, it was a good workout. I mean, it was an individual, you know, but it was a good workout. I mean, meeting with the coaches was great. So I really enjoyed meeting with all the coaches, and I'm excited for them. Hopefully, maybe they'll draft me.
So he was asked about his workout here in Sacramento. No worries. I got to put the credit up. So he was asked about his workout here in Sacramento, said it was individual. He really enjoyed meeting with the coaches and, quote, hopefully they will draft me. That was better. Can you hear that? Okay, I'll keep playing it if you can hear it.
Could you see yourself there?
I can see myself in a lot of places. So if they draft me, I'll play.
Your sisters going to Duke, I believe?
Yeah, going to Duke.
Where are you two similar and different as players?
I mean, similar, both competitive, both want to win. Different, I think I'm more of a point guard. She's more of a combo guard, scoring guard. So, I mean, she's naturally a shooter. I think I'm naturally a facilitator. So, there's different ways we play. But, yeah, we moved her into Duke maybe last
maybe I think it was Tuesday, maybe last week or this week. But yeah, so she's down there, and then she'll be back here tomorrow, doing some media stuff. So.
Okay. All right. So he was asked about a player from Duke, female player, and the differences with their games. And he said she's more of a combo guard and scorer. I'm more of a facilitator. That to me, that's the secret sauce. That is where the decision is going to lie for this team. And I can only speak for myself. I can't speak for anybody else. I can't speak for the Kings. But looking at what I have on this roster, knowing that with the new rules that have been put in place with the draft lottery, is there more of an opportunity for the Kings to be active in trades and free agency? Maybe. If I'm looking to move Domantas Sabonis, which I personally believe I have been talking about it for at least 6 weeks now, and everything I had heard was indicating that. James Ham came out with his report. I trust that very much. Thanks, Amar. Appreciate you, brother. Thanks for being here, dude. Happy Father's Day to you as well. If you're looking to move Domantas Sabonis, that means you are losing 50% of your facilitation. Right off the bat. We've seen Kings teams that have too many shooters and not enough creators. In fact, if you want to knock the Kings roster construction over the last 5 years, including when they made the playoffs, that was the hole in the Swiss cheese. You had too many finishers and not enough creators. I look at Darius Acuff. I look at his skill set. He's a combo guard. The Kings have drafted many combo guards. If you want to go down the list, the most recent, Devin Carter, who to this point has not worked out, and by all accounts does not appear to be in the Kings' future plans. If you look at how he was utilized last season. 22 wins. That's right. This thing is being broken down to its studs. Jerry Reynolds said this is the year that we need to know from Keegan Murray. Is this going to be, can you be a guy that scores 15 points, 18 points a night and play defense the way that he's shown? He's clearly the Kings' best defender. Solid as hell on that side of the basketball. Can guard 1 through 5 in switching scenarios, in quote unquote reds, as Doug Christie likes to call them. With Kingston Fleming's, his type of mindset, his type of player to me does not come around as often as a Darius Acuff. I think there's a lot of Darius Acuff types in every single draft. And I could be wrong. Darius Acuff might be the best that we've seen in 20 years. And you can look back at this and say, damn, bro, you were way off. But I'm looking for something to make everyone better because it's a young group. For me, to my eye, Darius Acuff is not the guy that would be the guy here in Sacramento. that the Kings have never had in this roster. That is strictly my take, my opinion, 24 hours out from the draft, now that I have done all of my evaluations on the players. Kingston Fleming's hits different. Again, a different type of player. That type of player, that type of mindset, the two-way, the facilitator, the basketball IQ, many of those items that Doug Christie's talking about hits that list. If you go down and you look at last year's draft, you look at this year's draft, you could go back 5 years. We could go back 5 years if we wanted in draft history and see how many true point guards actually came out of that draft that were listed as true point guards and what they're doing today. He just feels like he's going to be that guy. He's not the sexier guy. I don't think athletically he has the higher ceiling. But if I'm looking to unlock Keegan Murray, if I'm looking to grow Max Ryno and Dylan Cardwell, if those are the guys that I'm looking to grow, if I'm looking to get Zach LaVine more shots, if I'm looking to unlock Zach LaVine back to an all-star level, then that seems like the right guy to me. Because I think I can get an A cuff down the road. I could get something similar to an A cuff that's already in the NBA and free agency. Having a true to the screws point guard changes teams. Look at the Phoenix Suns as an example. Colin Gillespie, as true of a point guard as you will find in today's NBA, he changed everything in Phoenix. And it's not because of his scoring. It's not because of anything else but his IQ and his ability to make the players around him better. He took the ball out of Devin Booker's hands and took that responsibility away from Devin Booker and let Devin Booker do what he did best. So many times, this Sacramento Kings team throughout the last 5 years has had to patch together the point guard position. You've had to do it by committee. You've had to ask Zach LaVine to bring the ball up, Nick Clifford to bring the ball up, Keon Ellis to bring the ball up, Devin Carter to bring the ball up, Davion Mitchell to bring the ball up, De'Aaron Fox to bring the ball up, Malik Monk to bring the ball up, Terrence Davis to bring the ball up, Markelle Fultz to bring the ball up, Domantas Sabonis to bring the ball up, and so on and so forth. If I have an opportunity to get that true point guard guy, like you kind of had in Howley, and Howley was different because of the situation, Kingston Fleming's is not going to be Tyrese Halliburton. I can promise you that. But I think he really could be the wild card that unlocks that team basketball that Doug Christie wants. What do you think? Where are you at on this? If you look at the Kings' best games last season, and there weren't very many of them, if you look at the Kings' best games the season before, look at the chunk of games that De'Aaron Fox did not play. And that is when the Kings went on that run where I think it was Doug Christie that won his first however many games, and it was like 9 of 11. When you didn't have that kind of guard on the floor and the ball was moving, everybody played better. And if I'm at the nuts and if I'm separating the drywall from the lumber, from the nuts to the screws, and getting ready to build this thing up from the ground, I can't think of a more important position to have the right guy at. And to me, it's Kingston Fleming's. Now, if Darius Acuff's on the board, the Kings are going Acuff. You will have him. And it will be, look, Acuff, I am not trying to poo-poo his game whatsoever. I think he's an exciting player. I think he has a higher ceiling than Kingston Fleming's. It just feels like we've seen this movie before, though. At what point do you decide to rent a different movie? We've tried anything and everything but a true point guard, which if you ask anybody around this team that follows this team professionally or is in the NBA realm, they will tell you the biggest hole for the Sacramento Kings over the last 5 years has been not having that position, even if you go back to the Beam Team year. I mean, do I need to bring up Domantas Sabonis 2 years ago at exit interviews? Before Jeremiah Salmonson could even finish his question about what the Kings need, Domas, like, point guard.
That you think? The biggest thing is we need a point guard, that's for sure.
So if I'm living in a world that Domantas Sabonis might not be on this roster, and I don't believe he'll be on this roster, then it's got to be Kingston Fleming's. Because where are you turning to at point guard then? Neat Clifford, Darius Acuff. Now, let's play devil's advocate for a second. Maybe the Kings have other plans at the point guard position. That could be very true as well. Maybe they have their eye on somebody in free agency. We won't know, but that's what's exciting about all this. And that's why I go back to what I said at the start of the show, which was if you want to or you plan to switch some things up and be in a position to chase a player, i.e. a Precious Achua, maybe a Kobe White, you're going to have to make moves ahead of free agency. And the only move, theoretically, that's going to clear that space up or give you the runway to operate is trading Domantas Sabonis, whether you like it or not. And at the end of the day, when you look at Scott Perry's evaluation of talent, when you look at Scott Perry's quote-unquote guys that he's brought in, let's just be frank about it. Domantas Sabonis does not fit that build. I asked Scott Perry it was after the trade deadline, and I commented on both the past front office and his front office and the Kings' ability to identify, develop, and that's our new motto around here is identify, develop, retain. Those are the three things for the Kings. Okay. But I asked him about the importance of being able, because this was the third year in a row that they found somebody undrafted that then signed a free agent contract for a full-time roster spot. So the question I asked him is, how important is that going forward? And the answer that he gave me went way further than that. And I'm going to play it for you because I think it goes a long, long ways into giving us an insight, or at least me, an insight into what type of player he is looking for. I was so happy that he indulged me with the answer, and he does not make the direct comparison. However, he talks a lot about similarities between a couple of players. Let me pull that up in just 2 seconds as we continue on the King's Court talking the draft. talking who the Kings are going to take tomorrow. Will there be any moves ahead of tomorrow? Trying to get to that audio really quick with Scott Perry. Fun of doing live show. I wish I had a better producer. You know, I need my audio right now, yo. Can you pull that up for me? Audio now on demand. But no, Scott hit the nail on. Oh, there we go. I think we are getting close. Scott hit the nail on the head after the trade deadline about that. And I thought it just, again, was that important of an answer. And to me was the writing on the wall that, you know, maybe Domas is not that. Scott Perry does not see Domas as the right type of center for this Kings team. So audio forthcoming on that. If you want to call the show, hit us up. You can scan the QR code that's on the screen. I will put the link in the chat as well. If you would like to give your predictions, I'll be down at the Golden One Center tomorrow to cover the draft. Scott Perry will have media availability after the draft. Here is my question to Scott Perry about the importance of developing the young players, identifying them. And by the way, this goes to part of the reason that I believe Sabonis is not necessarily in the future plans. Here, check out what he had to say.
Right now.
Hey, good morning, Scott. This is the third year in a row, first under your front office, that the Kings have found an undrafted player and elevated them to a full-time roster spot. With the strain of the CBA, with the strain of the salaries that are on the books, how important is it with the back end of finding those guys and developing them? And can you speak to the process that's gone on between you and Stockton and the front offices working together to come out with these positive players?
Yeah. Obviously, I can't comment on what preceded me. I recognize that, and that's a tremendous job. But I think it's extremely important where we are today because, as you mentioned, and the best way to improve your team is usually through the draft. But when you draft young players, it takes time to develop them. Drafting them is one thing, developing them is another. And in Dylan's case, he goes through, and he's not one of the 60 guys picked. Kudos to our scouting staff. We quickly pivoted to him. I think we were the only team that offered him a two-way. Everybody else was talking about exhibit 10s for him. And so we saw something in him. Now, when he came in, he bought in. He's continued to work extremely hard. His time with Stockton was excellent. You know, kudos to Gabe Harris, who's the GM of our Stockton Kings, Will Scott, the head coach, Jason Maxiell, who's an assistant coach, a former big man that I drafted years ago in Detroit. So there's a mission to what we want our big men to look like. And so we want to.
There's a mission to what we want our big men to look like. Quote, there's a mission to what we want our big men to look like. That was it for me. And here he'll talk about another big man that he was around.
Be tough, physical, and Jason has done a great job with him in terms of the mental aspect of that with him. There's been a lot of drilling going on with him to improve his free throw shooting. You know, he's got a long way to go as an offensive player, but that's okay. I worked with a guy for years in Detroit who never was considered, quote unquote, a great offensive player, but he was impactful offensively because you had to block him out, and that was Ben Wallace every time. But he was elite rebounder, led the league in rebounding, and one of the best shot blockers. And his toughness and his energy permeated the roster, the more talented guys. And so Dylan, I'm not sitting here saying that Dylan is Ben Wallace today, but he's doing some of the things that you like to see from a great defensive big. He's just starting, just scratching the surface. So now it's incumbent upon both us and him to keep getting better and not just feel good that he just signed his contract yesterday to become a full-time NBA player. Now, where do you take it from here? How great do you want to become? And sometimes that's can be a great fortune for a team in the front office when you can get a guy who was undrafted. You know, like I said, I use the example because I lived with him so long. When Ben Ross was an undrafted player, and we had a couple on that team that we ultimately won the championship with. So just because a guy's not drafted doesn't mean he can't make it. But you got to get the right person, mindset, and then you got to do your job as an organization and pouring into them and developing not only their skills, but again, their mindset and approach to becoming the best NBA player they can become.
It's a great question. If he does not like, I'm not saying he does not like Sabonis. I just don't think that he's in the future plans. And the why would he like Ryno? They are, I see the similarities, but they are very different in a sense. It's a great question. And here's the other thing. You know, one of the biggest differences between Domantas Sabonis and Max Ryno is what they're being paid. It's night and day. With Sabonis, you know what you have. Sabonis is a workhorse. Sabonis is an all NBA player. He got snubbed a couple of times for All-Star nominations here in Sacramento. But you can mold the younger guys if you're the GM and it's your draft pick the way you want to mold them. I think Max sees the floor very, very well. I think they're both great in the pick and roll, something Jerry Reynolds has said and something we were kind of criticizing Doug about largely was not playing Max and Sabonis together. Because if Doug was looking to recreate some of that chemistry that the Kings used to have back in the day, you know, Doug says, I want to teach you how to play instead of teaching you a play. If that's what you want to do, that's how the Kings did it. They played both of those big men, Weber and Vlade, that could come up from the post to the high post and to the elbows. And that's where that ball movement, the floor vision really starts. And now Sabonis was injured, number one. And number two, with Max Ryno, you didn't know he was going to turn into what he turned into. If you asked Scott Perry, did you think he was going to be an all NBA player when you drafted, or an all rookie team selection when you drafted him? The answer, honestly, would probably be no. Max Ryno got a huge opportunity to get more runway. Max Ryno was not in the rotation until Sabonis got hurt. So in some ways, Max Ryno has played himself into that position, and 41 other teams in the NBA didn't see it either, by the way, because he was picked in the second round. So I think you have some similarities with the way they see the floor, the way they play the pick and roll. I think Max's touch is better than Sabonis's. Quite frankly, his little floater and the touch on that, it is so soft. I would already put that into the category of some of the guys like you saw Hartenstein in Oklahoma City, that floater in the playoffs. Max is already in that conversation. He's only played not at the same level of a player as Isaiah, but with the floater. He is in that conversation. Max's hands are incredible too. So yeah, it's a valid point. It's developing a player that you think could get to that level at a lower price pick. Yeah, some teams pass twice. That's right. Sabonis, all NBA player. You got to pay those guys. Yes, you do. But here's the thing, you have to use them correctly. I could go back to not just the 22 win season. I could go back to the season before when the Kings got bounced by the Mavericks in the play-in. The Kings were not using Domantas Sabonis correctly. It goes back to the whole thing about guys playing out of position. And that's why when I talk about Sabonis's trade value, if a team is going to use Domantas Sabonis the way that you can get the most out of him and really make his skill set shine and elevate your team, absolutely you pay those guys. But if you're not on the flip side, it's like, what's the point? The Kings have not utilized him well whatsoever. And I think part of that is because you have not had a true point guard next to Domantas Sabonis. You just haven't. It's the one movie that this fan base has not seen in years, is a true point guard on the Sacramento Kings. All right, let's go to the phones. Oh, he dropped off. Kazi was there. So, and I do believe if you bring in Darius Acuff, you're still going to need a point guard. The Kings still need to go out and get a point guard. So it'll be interesting to see. It's fun. It's that time of year. We're 24 hours from the draft. Everybody has their opinions. Things are going to change between now and tomorrow. Things might change between now and when Grant and I are on tonight at 7:00. You know, it's going to be fun. And for the Kings, I think best case scenario is you able to get into the first round again somehow, whether it would have to be through trade. Bet on your team, maybe give up like a 2031 first round pick to get into the first round again this draft, later in the first round. That to me would be best case scenario. So where do you stand? Like, okay, if all of you right now have the NBA note card in front of you, okay, grab your note card. You get to be Adam Silver for 2 seconds. This is where I take your poll now. You're Adam Silver. You're writing the name on the card at 7, assuming Acuff and Flemings are on the board at 7. Write in the chat who you're taking. I want to see where all of you are at. Who are you taking? Who's it going to be? Let's go. It's a little dark in here. Let me improve the lighting. Kazi, what's up, dude?
Hey, Ryno, can you do me a big favor for me real quick?
Yeah.
Can you go in your kitchen and make me a nice New York gourmet steak for me right now? And maybe add some celery or like some mashed potatoes, a nice salad. Can you go make that for me right now?
What I could do is send you the link to get some to go from Bennett's.
Oh, that's perfect.
They've got great New York fillets, whatever you want. 3 locations.
I know you're not a chef, but what I just asked you to do is exactly what Sacramento is trying to do. They're trying to take all these ingredients on the shelf and make a perfect, nice sizzling steak from a 5-star restaurant. And they don't know what to do with them.
I mean, every team to a degree is trying to do that. But yeah, I see what you're saying.
Because with this whole point guard situation with this draft, I mean, I'm just going to throw out Mikal Brown Jr. because of the back issues. I could see him falling late lottery because of that. I mean, look at Porter Jr. 8 years ago. It's just like, it's just what direction do they want to go? Do they want a dynamic scorer at the point guard, or do they want more of a facilitator? Because I think that's just what they have to figure out.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And the question becomes, how confident are you that you can get a true point guard if you do draft a cuff? Because that's
Because yeah, with
still
with the roster that they have right now, Acuff doesn't, make sense, as I've stated. Kingston Flemings. I mean, I don't know. There's something about Kingston Flemings that just doesn't get me excited to go to games, you know what I'm saying, or watch games. Where Acuff does have that. Keaton Wagler is that like, ooh, like maybe not right now, but give me like 2 years. So it's so complex. It's who knows what they're going to do.
that's what makes it fun, right?
With an edge to it.
Is what do you think about Domas?
I mean, I love Domas because he's the true facilitator on the team. So if you get rid of him, who's your next facilitator? I mean, is it? I don't know why I'm saying his name. I'm just saying it because of his veteran experience, DeRozan, because of his vision.
Yeah, I think he played really well with the young guys last year when the other players were out.
Because it doesn't seem like there's any talk about getting rid of Levine, is there? It's
You
all either
can't.
huh?
You can't. He's not going to opt out.
Stuck with them. Shit, I mean, yeah, with this roster right now, I mean, Flemings does make better sense, even though I don't want Flemings because of his. I don't think he has that high of a ceiling, but I don't know. Time will tell, man.
All right, brother. Be well. Thanks for the call. Thanks for calling in, Kazzy. Kazzy and his candle, man. Kazzy and the candle. What are you going to do about him? All right. I asked you guys to put your picks in. Acuff or Mikel Brown Jr., Acuff, Flemings, Horse. Hot take. I disagree. Sacramento likes to look at flashy packaging, ingredients that don't go well together. Let's throw a salmon and peanut butter and garlic and lamb shanks and syrup into a pan. Oh, bro. That's brutal. I get the point you're trying to make. I do. I'm a little scared. Haunted Horse wants, anytime Haunted Horse chimes in, we usually play a drop, but this is when I tell you I am not responsible for what comes out of his mouth. I have no idea what he's about to say. So here we go.
If you're going to give a guy.
Oh, no, we're not playing that one. I know that one. Horse, man, I'm trying to give you some run, but it just doesn't work out.
We're going to find out where the male G spot is.
Oh, there. Yeah. Horse. Come on, man. Come on. All things good on their own don't go well together. Yeah. Nobody. Make believe time ends tomorrow. Yeah, you're right. It does. It does. It's going to be interesting to see what the Jazz do at number 2. I think they're going Peterson. Although Peterson has pushed back, or at least his camp doesn't seem to want to go to Utah. It's funny because I have seen the amount of smoke and mirrors that's going on right now with these players and what teams are telling them. If you go listen to some of the interviews today that they did, their pre-drafts, it's really funny because players have called off different workouts because, teams have said, oh, I think we're going to take you, or we want you here. So you have some guys that you are expecting to be between 6 and 9 that think they're going to be between 1 and 5. Like, it's just, yeah, exactly that. When make-believe time ends tomorrow. It's insane. It's a fun time of year. I just, if you're in this for the long haul, if you're in it for the long haul, it just seems like Flemings is the right guy. But I like them both. Me saying that I think it should be Flemings does not mean I don't like Acuff. I do like Acuff. Again, I just feel like I've seen that story before. It's another Calipari guy. The Kings and Calipari players. I mean, John Calipari comes to a Kings game and everybody's thinking he's going to be the next head coach. I don't subscribe to that. It's just, and I understand Scott Perry has not drafted a combo guard, but it's so hard to do. They are hit and miss, and the Kings have flamed out royally when it comes to drafting combo guards the last few years, and too many of them. So 50-50 on Acuff and Flemings. Doesn't matter who gets picked. See, I disagree. I see the reasoning for both picks. You know what? In fact, I will go as far as to tell you that I will have a better idea. I'll have a better read on the plans for this rebuild, this brick by brick process that the Kings are going on. I'm going to have a better idea of what that plan looks like with whoever's name is announced at number 7 tomorrow. If it's Darius Acuff, to me, that is foot to the pedal. We're swinging for the fences. If it's Wagler, if it's Flemings, to me, it's calculated. It's the understanding of where we need to start. And we know we need to start at that position. And I think it makes for a very interesting behind the scenes conversation between Doug Christie and Scott Perry based off of what Doug wants and is looking for in a point guard. Remember, because I like to hammer you over the head with it, Doug Christie.
Right off the bat, point guard, this is in this league, if you don't have that position, you really don't have a chance. It's the quarterback. It's, they say quarterback in football and different things, and that's a tough position. But this one is about as difficult as it gets. You're running a team, you're running a show, you're responsible for the guys on the court. You're quarterbacking the defense, you're quarterbacking the offense. This guy needs a shot, that guy needs a shot. When do I need to do my thing? What does the coach want? Am I representing him the right way out here? I'm the head of the snake. There's a lot that goes into that.
Interesting, huh? Super interesting. Maybe they're on the same page about it. Maybe they see those things. It's just defensively, that's where your worry's at. And again, we'll talk about it tonight with Grant, but it's unlocking that key to everybody else. So anyways, fun show. I will be tomorrow at the G1C for the media watch party and the Scott Perry press conference. So the King's Court will be audio tomorrow. Maybe we'll do it earlier. Maybe, you know what? I'll let you know tonight with Grant if we're going to do an earlier show tomorrow, like maybe a 10 a.m. show. We might do that, especially if there's any more news. Looking specifically at the Kings, if we're going to summarize today, the 2 paths that they could be looking at if they have their choice between the 2 point guards and what that means going both ways if you get one or the other. because you still have a lot of work to do. There's pluses and minuses to both players. And I think, again, we'll have a better idea. And I give Scott Perry a ton of credit. He's done a great job with his draft picks. He's done a great job with identifying, much like his predecessors did, the unsigned. And that's the other thing, too. And we're going to have a heavy emphasis on this once the season or the summer season starts going for the Kings with the California Classic and also Summer League. You know, what happens tomorrow and the next day is important, but what also is important is what happens when the draft is over. Can the Kings identify those guys that don't get drafted? Because there is a bigger push in the NBA for teams to be better at that, put more into that with the CBA that the NBA is currently under. So we'll monitor heavily who the Kings end up signing for their summer league team, who are the Exhibit 10 players, etc. So that'll be part of it as well. But before all that, 7:00 tonight, Napes and I will be back. Join us. Would love to have you in on the conversation. We'll predict what it's going to be tomorrow night for the draft. Grant's back. I'll be back with him. Hope you have a great rest of the afternoon. And yeah, I'll let you know tonight whether we're going to do a daytime show or not because of the draft. But appreciate everybody. See you in a couple hours right here on If You Don't Like That. Court is dismissed.